Flamingo Books. Shining English Reader. Series 7. Chapter 3. Behind the Times. My first interview with Dr. James Winter was under dramatic circumstances. It occurred at 2 in the morning in the bedroom of an old country house. I kicked him twice on the white waistcoat and knocked off his gold spectacles, while he thrust me into a warm bath. I am told that one of my parents, who happened to be present, remarked in a whisper that there was nothing the matter with my lungs. I cannot recall how Dr. Winter looked at the time, for I had other things to think of, but his description of my own appearance is far from flattering. A fluffy head, a body like a trussed goose, very bandy legs and feet with the soles turned inwards. Those are the main items which he can remember. From this time onwards, all the important moments of my life were the periodical assaults which Dr. Winter made upon me. He vaccinated me, he cut me for an abscess, he blistered me for mumps. It was a world of peace and he, the one dark cloud that threatened. But at last there came a time of real illness, a time when I lay for months together in bed, and then it was that I learned that hard face could relax, that those country-made creaking boots could steal very gently to a bedside, and that rough voice could thin into a whisper when it spoke to a sick child. And now the child is himself a medical man, and yet Dr. Winter is the same as ever. I can see no change since first I can remember him, save that perhaps the brindled hair is a trifle whiter, and the huge shoulders a little more bowed. He is a very tall man, though he loses a couple of inches from his stoop. That big back of his has curved itself over sickbeds until it has set in that shape. His face is of a walnut brown, and tells of long winter drives over bleak country roads, with the wind and the rain in his teeth. It looks smooth at a little distance, but as you approach him you see that it is shot with innumerable fine wrinkles like a last year's apple. They are hardly to be seen when he is in repose, but when he laughs his face breaks like a starred glass, and you realize then that though he looks old, he must be older than he looks. But it was only when I had myself become a medical man that I was able to appreciate how entirely he is a survivor of a past generation. He had learned his medicine under an obsolete and forgotten system. Chloroform, he regarded as a dangerous innovation, and he always referred to the stethoscope as a new-fangled French toy. He carried one in his bag for the sake of appearances, but being very hard of hearing, it made little difference whether he used it or not. We made him president of our branch of the British Medical Association, but he resigned after the first meeting. "The young men are too much for me," he said. "I don't understand what they are talking about." Yet his patients do very well. He has the healing touch, that magnetic thing which defies explanation or analysis, but which is a very evident fact nonetheless. His mere presence leaves the patient with more hopefulness and vitality. The sight of disease affects him as dust does a careful housewife. It makes him angry and impatient. "Tut, tut, this will never do," he cries, as he takes over a new case. He would shoo death out of the room as though he was an intrusive hen. But when the intruder refuses to be dislodged, when the blood moves more slowly and the eyes grow dimmer, then it is that Dr. Winter is of more avail than all the drugs in his surgery. Dying folk cling to his hand as if the presence of his bulk and vigor gives them more courage to face the change, and that kindly, wind-beaten face has been the last earthly impression which many a sufferer has carried into the unknown. When Dr. Patterson and I, both of us young, energetic, and up-to-date, settled in the district, we were most cordially received by the old doctor, who would have been only too happy to be relieved of some of his patients. The patients themselves, however, continued to go to him, so that we remained neglected, with our modern instruments and our latest techniques. Both of us loved the old fellow, but at the same time, in the privacy of our own intimate conversations, we could not help commenting upon the patient's deplorable lack of judgment. "After all," said Patterson, "the people have a right to expect that their medical man will know the difference between a heart murmur and a bronchial infection. It's the analytical frame of mind, not the sympathetic, which is the essential one." It happened, however, that very shortly afterwards the epidemic of influenza broke out, and we were all worked to death. One morning I met Patterson on my round, and found him looking rather pale and fagged out. He made the same remark about me. I was, in fact, feeling far from well, and I lay upon the sofa all the afternoon with a splitting headache and pains in every joint. As evening closed in, I could no longer disguise the fact that I was sick, and I felt that I should have medical advice without delay. It was of Patterson, naturally, that I thought, but somehow the idea of him had suddenly become repugnant to me. I thought of his cold, critical attitude, of his endless questions, and his tests. I wanted something more soothing, something more genial. "Mrs. Hudson," said I to my housekeeper, "would you kindly run along to old Dr. Winter and tell him that I should be obliged to him if he would step around?" She was back with an answer presently. "Dr. Winter will come around in an hour or so, sir, but he has just been called in to attend Dr. Patterson."